friend of mine was telling me about how odd he finds these arranged marriages in Islam. I told him that it's only strange because he's not used to seeing it, that there's pros and cons to it, just like there are pros and cons to the weddings that we're used to in the West. Personally, I think these arranged marriages are cool, where it's a wedding where both of the participants will be completely changing their lives. It's a thing of impact, versus our weddings here, where it's essentially just a party. But then I do also like our weddings because the speeches have a lot of jokes and stories based around the newlyweds. So there's good things and bad things with both. But the brainwashing has to be so intense that girls are willing to do these arranged marriages, he argued. Well, yes, it may be brainwashing, but it may also just be their culture. It's brainwashing to me. But how do we know that we aren't the ones who are brainwashed? What would your worldviews look like without your culture? Would you have the same aspirations? Would you have joined a different tribe? How is it that the culture you grew up in actually affected you? We can't see that because there hasn't been a single human being to exist that grew up outside of a culture. For better or worse, we are social creatures that are shaped in large part by the environment we grew up in. The values that we have, our aspirations, our ideas of good and bad, we can't separate ourselves from this. It's as much a part of being a human being as having the ability to reason. I wanted to know what my wants in life would be if I wasn't influenced by my society. But then I realized I have to be influenced by some society. It's hard for me to determine what I actually want because my wants and needs are shaped by the culture that I'm a part of. It's very difficult to reach into that authentic self because since you were born, you've been getting indoctrinated into the beliefs of a culture. And we don't have just one culture either. We have the different cultures of our work, our school, our family, our upbringing, our hobbies, our geopolitical situation, what the news says, what social media says. All of us are affected by this, no matter how much we try to convince ourselves that it's the others who are being affected, and not us. Changes in culture come from when the values of one culture are brought into another, like how Alexander the Great started taking on Persian customs as he advanced further into his conquest of Asia. Lots of his Macedonian generals weren't happy, but he did it as a way to be accepted by the Persians. And while it's easy to say that our way is the correct way to live, we made it this far as a species by adapting to changing environments and working together as a team. Our beliefs and values are constantly changing, and we can't try to see what we'd be like in a vacuum because you can't separate the individual from the culture.